So I'm sitting here getting ready to make one of my old family recipes for the holidays. And as I was thinking about it, I started really thinking about truth and people's perceptions of truth right now. You know, and even my dog's over here playing with their squeaky toy. You say the word truth, it's like, squeak, squeak, blurt it out. Don't let us hear it. One of the things that really bothers me about the way our society is going right now is we have this aversion to truth. The only kind of truth that we want to hear is what we agree with, what we like, what fits into our paradigm and our worldview. And if it doesn't, well, then we reject it. It doesn't matter if it's actually true or not, because we've forgotten what truth actually is. You see, truth is unchangeable. Truth is not based on opinion. It's not based on desire. It's not based on what we do or don't want, what we hope, what we want to believe. All of that's irrelevant with truth. Truth doesn't change. Truth does not adapt itself to what we want to believe. Truth isn't flexible. Truth stays true. It never changes from truth to a lie. It doesn't go from being true one day to false another day. Now, our understanding of truth changes. We may see, as we learn more, that what we thought was truth at the beginning was not actually truth. This is especially true in like disasters and when there's information rapidly changing. A good example is the election that just happened. We had a lot of people that wanted to believe that the initial numbers they saw on election day were truth. And they were what had been counted that day. They were true that day in a limited sense. But they weren't complete. They weren't full. They weren't the whole entire picture. So they weren't the full truth. And what we often do now, what we see so many people doing is, if a certain group isn't giving the truth that they want, if you don't see what you want to see on that certain deal, well, then you go find some place that does give what you want. And we end up instead with people that, well, as the Bible puts it, it says they want their ears tickled. They only want to hear what they want to hear. They only want to believe what they want to believe. And if it doesn't fit with what they want to hear or believe, well, then they reject it. They don't believe it. It's not true. Not because it's actually not true, but because they don't want it to be true. And they'll just keep running around and changing who their source of truth is until they finally find it. Sound like this cat over here. Truth is dying. It can't be real. And as a result, we no longer know what's true. There's a lot of things, you hear a lot of people talking about fake news, but so often the people that are complaining about fake news are posting up links or only listening to news that tells them what they want to hear. And all too often, we as believers, we who should be purveyors of truth, and ultimately, no matter what the truth is, we should be the ones promoting that. You see, when we start pushing out other truths, lies, misinformation, false beliefs, and we start pushing it out there as if it's true because that's what we want, not because that's what it really is, the problem is we make ourselves to be out to be liars. We believe in lies and untruths, and then we try to tell people, well, you need to believe in the truth of the gospel, even though everything else I've told you is false. The Old Testament refers to them as false prophets. And what happened to false prophets in the Old Testament times was not pretty. In fact, it was downright ugly because they purported to be telling the truth, and then it wasn't. And because they were a prophet, because they were held up to a certain standard by God, because they claimed they were speaking for God, when it turned out what they said was a lie, they were taken out and stoned. Can you imagine what would happen today if we had people who claimed to be speaking for God, if they were held to that same standard today? How many would be getting stoned? And I don't mean toking stoned. I mean they were taken out into a yard and people would start picking up big rocks, the biggest they could find, and throwing it at them and beating them and pelting them with rocks until they were dead. And yet today, we've got people that if it doesn't say what they want, it must be a lie. Leaders of churches, ministers, pastors, priests, believers. But man, if it doesn't agree with what I want, it's a lie. You know, truth doesn't care if I like it or not. And even when I start looking at scriptural truth, when I first realized what the Bible said, that I'm a sinner, I didn't like that. When it said that I needed a savior because I had to be forgiven and I couldn't do it on my own, I didn't like that. To be downright honest with you, there's a lot of the Bible I don't like. I don't like it tells me I have to forgive others. I don't like that it tells me that I am filled with sin. I don't like that I have to rely upon God instead of my own strength. I don't like I have to follow and obey his commands. I don't like that. But that's truth. And it doesn't matter if I like it or not. The truth is I am a sinner. I'm in need of a Savior. I'm covered with my sin, and I cannot come into God's presence because of it. The truth is I need forgiveness, and the only way for me to receive forgiveness is to give forgiveness to other people, because they deserve it as much as I do. And in my case, I don't. I'm in need of a Savior. I'm in need of a healer. I'm in need of a provider. That's truth, whether I like it or not. And that truth doesn't change. Just like facts do not change. Our perception of reality might change, but the reality itself does not. And as long as we keep pursuing only what we want to believe, as long as we only listen to and hear voices that tell us what we want to hear, as long as we keep pursuing misinformation and pretending it's truth just because we like what it says, we're never going to actually hear real truth. We're never going to let real truth change us, and we're not going to be able to speak truth to other people because they see the hypocrisy and the lies in us that we push out there and try to pretend is truth when it's not. If we want to reach the world, we need to start being honest with ourselves and with the information we're pushing out there and with what reality is. And until we do, we're wasting our time and our energy. I encourage you, this holiday season, the truth is we had a God who became flesh, who became human for us because of our need for salvation. That's truth. But how are we going to be able to tell people that and have them believe it when we keep pushing other lies because we don't like what reality is? Let's stop pushing lies. Let's start seeking after real truth. Not just what we want to hear, not tickling our ears, not making us happy. But let's begin to seek after and acknowledge what is really real so that we can deal with the reality. The truth is, if you want to help an addict, until the addict comes to terms with the truth that they are an addict, there is no helping them. Until somebody who is lost comes to terms with the truth that they are a mess and need help, they can't be helped. Until the reality, the truth of the reality hits somebody where they are, they're not going to be helped. And as long as you are helping to push lies because it's what you want to hear instead of actual truth, you're never going to be able to help them deal with reality because you're not dealing with it yourself. As believers, can we stop pushing lies? Can we stop pushing what we want to hear instead of what's really true? And can we begin to hold on to truth? Because when we let truth come in, then truth will truly set us free. God bless.